Is age is just a number? Is that just a saying, or do you reckon that has some relevance? Do you reckon?
So I guess the biggest thing that people say with that is it is a number. Like let's look at what happens when we age. Um, Things tighten up, as in your
Yeah.
body. But if you think about how much activity you do now, so you
What,
train a couple of nights a week. You
yeah,
probably
training.
you're in the gym like what, 4 nights a week or 4 times a week.
Yeah, 3 to 4 nights a week.
Yeah,
Bit of boxing there on the side.
yeah.
I remember I went through a phase where I was doing, dragon boating, boxing, and lifting weights in the gym. And,
Mm.
on top of that, and I was sometimes, doing like, after school, do dragon boating training, and then I'd head straight to the gym and I'd be doing a boxing session or, be doing a gym session right after that. And like, I'd be absolutely cooked afterwards, but I was fit as hell. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, could I still do that now? Oh, yeah, I probably could,
Yeah, you
but
could.
it cooks the hell out of me. That's the
Well,
thing.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like the biggest thing that happens when people start moving into their working life or career or with their families and that sort of stuff is that their training and themselves starts kind of takes a little bit of a back seat in that respect.
Mm,
So
very true.
that mean, and then like the first thing that a young person gets when they're old enough is usually their driver's license. So
Yeah.
they go from either walking everywhere to, or they're riding their bike to driving a car.
Yeah.
So then incidentally, you miss out on however many steps you'd normally clock up or however many bike rides you'd normally do.
Calories you burn.
Well, yeah, and then like if you think about it, if you never do any exercise in your 20s to 30s, then all you're doing is driving everywhere and you used to ride your bike and walk everywhere, but then and then you go and get a sit down job. So you've
Yeah.
got your metabolism that slows down because you're getting older, and then your body naturally tightens up when you get closer past your mid to late 20s to 30s. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're not doing any activity that you were before because now you're driving everywhere. You live 50K away
Yeah.
from and all that. So then you meet some older people that are like, oh, this is really hard. This is difficult, and but it's difficult and hard because they're out of practice. So the other things have come into their life. Their work becomes their priority because you have to pay for your car, you got to pay for your house, you got to pay for your kids, or whatever it is. Or
Yeah.
maybe only one person in a relationship is working because the other one might either A doesn't have a job, can't find a job, or maybe looks after some children. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but then there's the financial side of things. So then there's a there's a there's a there's a concept called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, so the self-actualization, the part at the top where you can think about spirituality and being one with nature and having fulfillment,
Yeah.
you don't you don't get to
That is,
you don't get to
you don't,
actualization until you actually satisfy the basic needs of food, shelter, water, and all that sort of stuff. So, but
yeah.
anyway, as you said, age is a number.
Age
Um,
is, yeah.
yeah,
Because
and,
that's one thing you want to like, there's no shame on anyone because, everyone's different, everyone's life's different, everyone's genetics is different. But yeah, you just look at like some older people and you just like, and they, they're moving around and their, posture's a bit messed up and you're just like, don't want to do that. you
well,
know,
yeah, and I guess without knowing their backstory and that sort of stuff,
yeah, it's true.
it's really hard to, without knowing that, you could, from an outside perspective, you could look at a different person that you can only see from the physical side, and you're like, wow, that person's let themselves go, and and
Yeah.
and and we say that in society when we see people without necessarily, you don't know whether they've had anxiety, depression, and
Well, that's
eating
very true. There's a
disorder.
mental factor.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
you don't know what's going on in that sort of.
or their background, they could be taking care of family members. Their job could be fairly like, full on.
Yeah.
Just there's a number of factors, and I guess that's where, as you were talking about before, priorities come in because I'm not sure what his name was, but Team 3DMJ, he's part of it, but he's talking about priorities because he talked about one of his first marriages, and
Oh, that's
he's
Jeff.
very yeah, Jeff. Um,
Yes,
and she's
Jeff's
talking,
the only
yeah.
one that's been married more than once.
True, true. But like he talks about his priorities and how in his first marriage, priorities he had, bodybuilding as number one, and then he's like love life, family second, and then, so on and so forth. And that is probably what led to the end of his first marriage. So if you're getting where I mean by that, priorities are, definitely number, yeah, is what I think you really got to focus on as your grounding before you think about nutrition or actually getting into training whatsoever.
That's true. That's exactly right. And yeah, that also goes in line with depending on where you sit in that scale, like the severity of your relationship. Like if it's um like generally if you've got children or if you're a parent or something like that, then that scale then that scope of responsibility obviously is a lot greater. But in saying that, with your loved ones as well, then but obviously because most adults can look after themselves, well, one would like to think so. The other thing as well is to consider is if you don't give a little bit to yourself, it's actually really difficult to keep giving out to everyone else.
Mm.
Now, that's not to say you have to do everything for yourself, and then that poses the argument. Then when a person says, "Oh, I'm too busy to do this, and this, and this." Well, at the end of the day, really, all that is for the person that's saying whatever that is, whether it's a client, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, what they actually are saying, what they're not actually saying, is that my priorities are elsewhere to what's important to someone else.
Yeah,
So, and whatever that is, and it might come across as excuses, because what happens is when people make a decision to do something, is they get stuck in between actually doing it, making this decision, and then the whole contemplation component of it. So,
yeah,
like if someone says, "Oh, I want to lose 20 kilos," yeah, cool, all right, that's a good goal. There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
But they might bounce between saying, "I want to lose 20 kilos" for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 10 years, whatever it is.
yeah,
And they may never get to that 20-kilo goal, losing that. But they might always say, "I'd like to." But the issue is whether they're able to prioritize it in themselves, look at their own lifestyle, or get someone else to look at their own lifestyle. That's why people hire people to help them with it,
yeah,
and try to help them manage through it, because it's not quite as easy as press the red button, let's
yeah,
go, let's make it happen. You
yeah,
know,
true.
my wife made that pretty clear to me, because I didn't quite understand how that worked, because I'm not wired that way. So, like,
Yeah,
for argument's sake, because I've dieted so many times, and I made a conscious decision. I'm like, yep, time to drop 20, or time to drop 10, time to get in competition shape in 3 months, or whatever it is. And then
yeah,
I press the big blue button, big red button, and then it happens. But for most other people that aren't a little bit on the spectrum, to be quite honest, um, that have other things in their life, that other things, and whatever that is, they might have had an eating disorder when they were a kid, or maybe every time they go to the gym they feel really self-conscious. Now, that person is not going to get to that 20 kilos until they fix that first problem, whatever that is,
yeah,
or
true.
maybe they're injured. If you got a busted knee or a busted back, and or just injuries in general, and you say you want to lose 20 kilos, well, you're not going to be super motivated when you get out of bed because you're going to be in a lot of pain, and then you're going to be like, someone gives you a gym plan, and then you try it, you get injured again because for whatever reason, and then you're like, you might go and eat a tub of ice cream for a whole 2 weeks, and then where's your 20? Where's your goal? Well, it didn't happen because of
Yeah.
this and this reason. So without the right setup for most people, they have to sort of more or less prioritize certain things in their life. Maybe it's not going out on a Friday night and getting on the beers.
Get on the bend
Yeah, get
with
on
the
the bender.
boys.
And that's for some people, the social aspect is more important than whatever that goal is. But it kind of just needs to be framed in the right way. That's the biggest thing.